Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Osterhout, the executive producer here at Lincoln Square. And back with us again is the incredible Joe Trippi, who's taking your questions every Friday. Joe, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Sam? Good to be with you. Thanks
Pretty
for
good.
thanks for filling in for Alex again. You know, new dad. He's still getting trying to get some sleep. So I guess we're giving him his noon nap right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there, man. It
Yeah.
sucks. It's great. I mean, it's fun. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I loved it. I loved every second of it. But I'm still trying to catch up on sleep years
Absolutely.
later. We have a few questions. You guys really brought it. And also, as a side note, if you have questions, I see Debbie Tidwell in the chat. If you have questions for Joe that you want to ask now, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll run them. Actually, I'm going to start with Debbie's question here. Do you think if Trump invokes the Insurrection Act or martial law to stop the election, that people will rise up against this regime?
Yeah. I mean, look, I do think what I think is going on is most Americans. Again, we've been a democracy all this time. They've heard a lot about the threat to democracy, and they're seeing it. But they still are in this normalcy bias of, hey, we got rid of all you guys last time, and we can get rid of these guys this time by just showing up and voting. So I think when he invokes the Insurrection Act, in other words, I think there are lots of things that are starting to happen right now that are waking up a lot of people to know that's what you think is going to happen, but we're going to have to take action prior to that. And so, yeah, I think him invoking the Insurrection Act, him doing, it's already starting to raise the temperature of people who I think are rebelling against it, revolting. I think part of the theme has to become revolt, unite, reform. Revolt against what he's doing, particularly Insurrection Act, unite. And then, yeah, look, there's so much damage being done that we can't go back to, it's not defending the status quo. It's reforming and making sure this never happens again.
What do you think the odds of him pulling that, invoking the Insurrection Act or declaring martial law? Do you think the odds are good?
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt that is exactly what he's going to end up doing. Whether it's next week or a month from now or waiting to later towards the election. But I think all of this is to create the norm, the feeling that when we get to the election, he can put more ICE and others defending the ballot boxes against the against those who are stealing the vote and all that stuff. I mean, this is just look. The numbers are horrible. His own, more stories are coming out every day about how internal Republican polling is sending alarm bells, across, everywhere. It's all good news. The American people are independents. Only 29% approve of him, and the rest are moved away. But the problem with that, and that's the good news. The good news is people are getting it without the Insurrection Act being invoked. The bad news is I think it speeds up his grab and obstacle course to upend the election. Because he can't win, they can't win. So I think it sort of speeds up the authoritarian grab, and that's why, yes, I would expect for any excuse to invoke it, he will. And they're trying to create that excuse now in Minnesota.
Yeah, they sure are. Usually if your numbers come back and you polled poorly, you change your policy, right?
And the numbers show that people don't support what what ICE is doing. They may agree about the border, they may agree about the need to focus on immigration, but they don't agree with how it's being done and what ICE is doing. And so I think, and strongly, in strong numbers, I don't think what's happened in Minnesota is helpful to him in those numbers, and it's going to get worse. And therefore, you're right. Instead of like changing policy, and supposedly they are arguing about this in the White House, but when has he ever changed policy from what, I mean, we still have the tariffs, we still have everything. Even though it's created inflation, the numbers are going up, he still, will do another round of tariffs. It's just who he is. And yes, he will. He's even said, repeatedly now, why should there even be an election? I mean, that's all
Right.
prep. That's all prep for invoking this.
Yeah, he says things. He always sends up test balloons, right?
Yep.
Well, that this leads to this next question. And for everyone in the chat, if you're just joining, Joe
Right,
Trippi is taking your questions, and feel free to lay them on us. But you mentioned that he said he just threw it out there, like, well, why do we even have elections? And obviously, his press secretary says he's joking around, but what does that actually look like? There's a lot of talk that it's just not even a thing. Like, it's not really possible because states run the elections, right? What could you see a world in which? How much can he fuck with the elections? Is, I guess, what I'm getting at.
Well, like I said, he could Insurrection Act. You can, create. Take him when he says things like that. You have to take him seriously. He intends to disrupt the election. He cannot win it. The Republicans can't win it. The last thing he's going to want to see is a Democratic majority in the House that would launch investigations and stop any authoritarian progress that that he wants to move forward. It's not, so he's not going to let that happen. And so, I think that, again, I keep pointing out that as more and more Americans, and every Democrat and most independents now are over this and want to end it. No matter how many Republicans there are who stay the course, the rest of the country is saying no more. We don't want it. And in that means I don't see any way for him to repair that. Things will be getting worse. Inflation is going to continue to go up. The tariffs will be there. He's going to put more, probably through the Insurrection Act or moving into other states and other cities. He's going to keep doing what he's doing, and therefore that's going to make them more inclined to throw up as many obstacles as possible, including, yes, I mean, I think there will be a lot of disruption. If he doesn't try to cancel the election, he will more likely, I think, put ICE and others out there under to protect the ballot box, which but is designed to intimidate people. I mean, it'll be interesting where they show up, probably in Latino communities,
of course,
and in other minority communities. I doubt he'll have ICE protecting the boxes in Orange County, California, or Idaho, or even Alabama. But I think it'll be selective. But I think we have to be ready for that. I know we have different. Mark Elias and others are looking to fight it legally. I think the good news is that in states like Pennsylvania and others, Pennsylvania being where you have a governor, a Democratic governor, and like as you pointed out, Sam, the rules on election day are imposed and handled at the local, the county, and the state level. There are places where we'll be able to stand up to that, like Illinois and New York and California, but there'll be plenty of places where they will play games. And by the way, we see this. They're in Illinois ICE and what's happening in Minnesota now, it will be, if he puts ICE into polling places in Pennsylvania, yes, there's a governor like Pritzker in Illinois that will stand up, but it still is going to be intimidating to a lot of people in a state where the election may be decided by 30,000, 40,000 votes. The idea will be to intimidate people to not vote. And that's why I think look, one of the things we have to do is, and it's positive about the numbers, is the divide's getting so wide that if people just actually vote and do it and stand strong, stand together, it will be so big they won't be able to intimidate and stop and in the fog of war declare that he won the election. That's not gonna. It'll be too big for that. So that's what I'm banking on fighting for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always worth just remembering that ICE is a paramilitary force.
Yeah.
They're not law enforcement, right? They're not working with state and local authorities or governments or law enforcement. They're not coordinating anything. They're just a bunch of goons.
Well, and they're self-selected. I mean, look at the the recruitment videos. It's like,
oh my God,
come here and beat heads. I mean, that's what the whole thing is. And so I think the reality here is that that's, again, there's a reason this is happening, and it's because I think actually it is because of the Epstein files. I mean, what we saw when Attorney General Bondi declined, said she wasn't going to release him because there was nothing there. There immediately he started to have problems, particularly with independents, started to move away.
Yeah,
and almost simultaneously as that happened was when you saw more troops in the streets, more ICE. And that was when he made the call to Abbott that, hey, I need 5 congressional districts in Texas and that's when he launched the redistricting thing. If you go back to that moment and then see how fast everything continued to speed up as his numbers continued to decline, that's the race we're in right now, I think, is they are going to do everything they can. They have to try to do this before they lose legitimacy, which they are losing with too many people in the country. And so I think it's going to be a complete failure, but it's going to be a constitutional crisis. He's going to push further and further over the abyss. And the American people, I think, are waking up to that, but I think it's going to get very I don't think 6 months ago, no one would have believed that they would actually invoke the Insurrection Act. Guess what? Right. As Stuart Stevens points out, we lack the imagination of just how far Donald Trump and this cult will go.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Stuart lines. And as a side note, Rick has been pointing out lately that the independent swing is huge. It's a huge swing, but at the same time, 45% of voters now identify as independent. It's the highest number ever, apparently.
That's what I noticed that in the New Jersey results, New Jersey exit poll.
Yeah,
where we do know what registration really is. In the New Jersey exit poll, 55% of the people who came out and reported to the exit pollsters that they were independents. Unheard. I mean, that's like, yeah, right, okay. But right. No, they really were registered, a lot of them in a part, but they could have decided they're independent. And then the key thing there was they voted overwhelmingly for the Democrat, not just in New Jersey, but in Virginia and in Georgia and the seats that we picked up there. So yeah, I think the number of independents is rising. The other interesting thing, Sam, we've talked about this before, is that the double haters, the people who hate both parties.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen. Rick's right. The independent swing is bigger than I've ever seen. But the other thing is double haters. People hate both parties. You don't need to take my word for it. Use your own, your own judgment, your own common sense. They tend not to vote. I mean, they tend to be people who go like, I can't stand both these parties or both these candidates. What the hell am I going to waste my time for?
Right.
They voted in these off-year elections. I mean, they never vote, but they never, I mean, even the presidential, they don't vote, but they voted in these off-year elections in New Jersey and Virginia. And again, we know because the exit polls, they told the exit pollsters that they're double haters, and 80% of them, 8 out of 10, voted for Spamberger, the Democrat in Virginia.
Wow.
And I think 7.9 out of 10 voted for Mikey Sherrill. So it just, I know all this angst about the Democratic brand. It's so toxic. Sure. But when double haters who think the Democratic brand's toxic and MAGA and Trump are toxic, when they're forced, they could stay home.
Yeah.
But that's how toxic Trump and MAGA has become, that they not only decided not to stay home, but they decided to vote for that other toxic party, the Democrats,
right,
because of how toxic Trump and MAGA is. And that's what I'm saying. That's what when Trump and his, in Las Vegas and these guys all understand this. They have the same data. And you see reporting now that they're conferring about how to deal with his decline in the numbers. I think what they're going to continue to do is they're not going to back down. I don't think that'll work for them, because then they lose the crazy base, because they're he's turning the cheek. Donald Trump, never. So that's what I think. I think that's why you're going to see the Insurrection Act or some other crazy, over the top, way overreach. And hopefully, getting back to that first question, that makes. I think the American people are already there, but I think that will end up putting a lot of people in cement that we have to stop this now.
Right. Some great questions are coming in from the audience, and guys, if you're just tuning in, ask questions, put them in the chat. I'm loving what you're pulling up. Let's go with this one. Jen Wynn says, what are your thoughts on deposing Schumer as minority leader and running a primary challenger for his Senate seat?
Look, I've said this all along. Schumer, look. Again, we've been this democracy this long time. If you came up through the leadership in both parties, it was because you were really good at kind of like keeping the caucus in line, corralling them, herding the cats, sure, and at the same time being able to walk across the aisle and sit down with Mitch McConnell and figure out how you get 5 votes from his party to be with this and all that stuff. Schumer was pretty good at that until the Republican Party went crazy. And there's no one to walk across the aisle to do a deal with anymore. And 2, it's different from being a leader of a caucus and being the leader of the opposition to an authoritarian movement. And so where all of the people in leadership were groomed over, you don't get there yesterday. It takes years to go up the leadership ladder, to develop that capacity. And like I said, he mastered that and was really a good leader for the party in the Senate until that didn't work anymore. And so, no, he's not the right leader to lead this battle. He's not a rebel opposition. Take it to Trump. Take it to Trump. It's just not who he is. And so I would be for tell me when, like 6 months ago, a year ago.
Right.
the day after Trump won in 2024, I would have wished that he would have done what Nancy Pelosi ended up doing and stepping down, passing the gavel. But that's not what he did. Again, I don't think it's not actually not his fault. It's just that the caucus itself has to decide we need to do something different, and I don't think that's going to happen either. That's not how the Senate works. So because a lot of them are in that same, it's like there's like this normalcy bias that we just got to get through 2 more years of this and it'll be
Right.
okay.
And then Chuck will be able to do
Chuck will be able to do his job again. No, Chuck's never going to be able to do his job.
No, it's a different world.
Yeah,
it's a totally different world.
And that's, I mean, he was groomed and built for a different world, not his fault, but the world's changed, and and we need to evolve with it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people continue to ask questions about the Insurrection Act, but I'm going to save that one for next. This is something that I've been thinking about. What do Republicans gain from staying connected to Trump? And part B, are there any Republican politicians that would follow, say, Barry Goldwater's example? And I think the ties to Trump historically have been, fear or a primary, or you don't want to get tweeted at, or punishment or whatever. But what's the connective tissue now that his polling is so shit?
They're screwed. They have no way out.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, if they move away from him, the MAGA vote in their districts won't turn out and vote for him. Remember, Trump's not on the ballot.
Right.
I mean, he's not on the ballot. So those people, they don't come out. They don't even come out sometimes when Trump is for the person, but they don't come out. And if you're not hugging him, they aren't going to come out. So, I mean, that's problem 1. Problem 2, so you move away. You're not hugging them. You move away. They don't vote. And by the way, there aren't enough votes. Again, because of the way MAGA and Trump have sort of polarized so many independents now to vote against any Republican, you can't win by moving away either. So I think a lot of them will decide, if he wants to do insurrection, that, hey, maybe this is our best, the safest path is to just say, I didn't see the tweet. The usual stuff of, well, he does have the right. I mean, this is horrible stuff that we're seeing in Minnesota, whatever, and do that. I have blinders on. But I think that's what they'll do. They're putting the blinders on because they have no other option.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I will say, because I've been saying this, I do not believe that I will be surprised if Mike Johnson still has the gavel by the time we get to Election Day in November. I do believe that we'll see 2 or 3 other Republicans do what Marjorie Taylor Greene did and resign in the middle of his term,
right?
Without, not say I'm quitting at the end of the term, but I'm quitting now. I've got this new job, or I just signed a TV contract. I think a lot of them are trying to figure out how to hit the exit before they get wiped out, before they lose in an election.
Right.
And I think 2 or 3, I would not be surprised. Yeah. So we talked about, would I be surprised if the Insurrection Act was invoked? No. Would I be surprised if 3 Republicans use that moment to say, I'm out of here. I'm not part of this. I'm quitting. Which will not, yes, which will literally right now, you're 3 seats away from a Democratic majority. From the Democrats having more members. So if that happened, but, I think Johnson will lose that gavel. And that, and I think, right now, I think they're desperately talking to Massey and anybody they think might call it quits, and trying to shore that up. But I'm not sure that they will be able to do that. If I had one thing that I would tell people don't be surprised by would be that that Johnson can't hold it together. And particularly, by the way, we have the next budget ceiling problem coming up here at the end of January. They only have it by 3 votes. They're gonna, we'll see, because I'm not convinced that he can hold the votes together to stop another shutdown by literally not being able to put it together, just because of how tough it. Because a lot of Republicans may not vote for whatever the deal gets cut on, whether it's healthcare or anything else.
That's coming up. I'm sure we'll be covering that. But think about, you're talking about Schumer being trained up for leadership in a different world. Mike Johnson was never trained, period, for any world. Right. Yeah. He is the worst. It's a miracle that he survived this long. It's just probably a fact that nobody else wants the job.
Well, it's not just nobody else wants the job, but Trump has been able in the past to go in and sort of, hold the fear over the 3 or 4 deserters to not desert Johnson. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey, and then Tillis now recently in the Senate, you're seeing Republicans say the emperor's, got no clothes, and Marjorie left, but she sort of did it on her own, and nothing bad happened to anybody. I mean, there's Tillis, basically going to the floor and saying, I'm sick of stupid, and stupid is taking out Greenland, and stupid is attacking our allies. I mean, just went into a diatribe about how he was sick of stupid, and stupid was Trump. Yeah. And so this is a U.S. senator and the MAGA U.S. senator, and took to the floor and said, now that gives light. That's what I'm saying. I think you're starting to see other people, Massey started, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Massey, but I'm thinking it's starting to leak. The worse the numbers get, the more the air in that balloon is starting to go. You're going to see some people say, I'm out of here.
Well, and you do the cost benefit, and quitting, there's no cost ultimately.
Well, no, it's particularly if you can get a gig on Fox or wherever, so and so I'm sure people are shopping some of those, book deals and anything else.
For sure.
Or a CEO job somewhere.
I want to wrap with this question. You mentioned Greenland, and on every news website, it's like Trump. The headline is like, the ice in Minnesota is unpopular, but then the crawler up top is France and Germany send troops to Greenland, and I mean, it's just chaos everywhere. Can you just talk about Greenland and this whole move politically? Do you think it's going to happen? What are the odds? And
I think it's complete insanity, like most people using comments. I mean, we had 17 military bases in Greenland.
Right.
We were the ones that stopped putting that many troops there, costs, et cetera. But we were the ones that got it down to 1 or 2 bases, right? Greenland was happy with 17 American bases. They'd be happy to have 17 American bases tomorrow. And so this no, we got to own the place. It's got to be ours. The same thing with the minerals and all that stuff. They're fine. They just want to be Greenland. They just want to be their own place. And so we had everything that Trump wants. He could be unhappy that, the last 4 presidents slowly pulled out of Greenland militarily, whatever, okay, change policy. We're going to start doing that. But no, so what has he done? He's caused, we're actually, our allies are now putting troops on the ground only a few, but putting troops on the ground in Greenland to symbolically say, no, not here. You're not doing that. Which, by the way, has only ended up making him double down and say, yes, I am.
Right.
And then of course the press secretary can go out and go, well, we're keeping all options on the table, but that was just a joke, whatever. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like this, but the American people get it. I mean, this is where Venezuela is a disaster, because whether you liked what he did or not, he did it. And then immediately talked about Cuba, Colombia, and Greenland. And that still leaves out the Panama Canal and Canada.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, once he's talked about it, but he never did it. Then he talked about it and he did it. And now he's talking about Greenland. I just think it's stacking up now where people are like, oh no, don't, no. And we got to stop this now. And that's why I'm telling you, November of 2026, not only is the House in play, but the Senate is in play. It's gotten that bad. The numbers are that bad. I know Lincoln Project, we have the 26 and 26 House races. I think the vast majority of those races, if we do our jobs, will swing to Democrats. But now I think there are 3-4. There are races. The race in Alabama that I'm working on with Doug Jones running again. It feels a hell of a lot more like 2017 when we won there than it does anywhere near where it was in 2020 when we lost. In other words, even there, the independents are moving away from Trump. And so, look, I think that tells me that people like Sherrod Brown in Ohio, if Doug Jones has a chance in Alabama, and he does, then you got to look around the country at places like Ohio and and some of these other places that we need to win, and the caliber of candidates we do, like Doug Jones and Sherrod Brown. I think that the Senate and some governors' races like Alabama will be a surprise. There'll be places that we will, if we do our work, if he does the things that it looks like, keeps doubling down on this stuff that's hurting him. His problem is he's got to give his base alligator Alcatraz, because that base loves that stuff. At the same time, every time he does an alligator Alcatraz or goes into something like Greenland to feed that with his base, the rest of the country is running for the door.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole thing that's happened now. Is he keeps doing the things to feed the base, but it's now overwhelming where young people, independents, Latinos, minority, the gains that he made in 2024, they're all not only gone, they're moving harder now away from him. So
sure. And the base isn't growing. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And if anything, even if you slough off just a point here or a point there, that's significant. And we have people like David Pepper and Amy Acton in Ohio, who we'll be interviewing on Lincoln Square, hopefully regularly. We're really excited about that.
Yep.
The polling came out. She's up against Vivek. There's hope. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also, as you said earlier, when Trump starts losing, it's the most dangerous time.
Yeah, that's why I think I think it's going to get darker before it gets better. Not because as it gets darker, it moves more people away from him, but that's the only card he's got. It's the only card he's ever played. And look, this is a guy who on January 6th, basically wasn't going to take it, wasn't going to take defeat, was willing to lead an insurrection to not take defeat. And that was when he wasn't the president and didn't have the power to, he was president, but he didn't have the apparatus of ICE and all this other stuff. He had some normal people around him enough that and Mike Pence actually was one of the only the ones that really mattered, that stopped it from happening. Well, who's going to stop him this time?
Nobody. I mean, it
Nobody.
was, he learned that the institutions stopped him, right? And so
Yeah.
what does he do? He gets rid of them.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So I just think no, whether it's the Insurrection Act or some other vehicle, he's going. He's not going to do less than he did on January 6th. He's going to do more, in my view.
Well, Joe, that's a good place to wrap. I know you've got a million Zoom calls that you're really excited about jumping into.
Thank you. This was my like vacation time today.
I know. I love this. I'm hopefully Alex is tired again next week, and I can come back with you. Everyone in the chat, make sure that you subscribe to Lincoln Square. I love, like, you always see me looking off camera. I'm reading your chats. I love it so much. Your voice gets heard here. So subscribe.
Absolutely.
Subscriber if you can. Join Says Us. Joe, definitely should do that, right?
Yep. SEZ.us. It's a social network that's aimed at people only, no bots, no algorithms, just good conversation and planning and ways to turn this back. So hope you'll join us there.
Yeah, and coincidentally, every time, like, we had Maya and Michael Fanone on yesterday, and the chat was crazy, and it was all MAGA nuts and all this kind of thing, but it's like 15% real people. It's just flush with bots. It's all bots.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you do, Joe. All right, everyone, we will see you next week. And tune in about a half hour. Edwin Eisendrath will be on with his show, It's a Democracy Stupid. We'll see you then.
Cool. Thanks everybody. Thanks.